Welcome to another edition of Rabbitohs Radio. My name is Grant Chappell. I'm joined by my loyal co-host and friend, Brendan the Rabbit Taliski. What's doing, Brendo?
Uncle Chapo, the mayor of Maroubra. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. I had a surf at Maroubra today. Wasn't much chop down there, bud, but that's the way it goes, mate. What have you been up to?
Mate, just getting these Chrissy presents delivered for Australia Post, mate. That's our slogan. We deliver. We get it done.
Yeah, we're down the waterfront, mate. We're not stocked, mate. Bringing in stock from overseas to fill up them shelves for Christmas. But look, we're not here for that, mate. To talk about what we do at work, we're here to talk about that fantastic series. I've been talking to a lot of people on the streets about it and friends about it. Chasing Glory, episode 6 dropped last week, 7 dropped this week. I've watched 7. We might do it. I think we might do 7 on its own, to be honest, even though I've got 6 and 7 written on the screen there. Because 6 was such a big episode, mate. It was about the semi-final series. We drew Manly in week 1, Brendo, and like I remember the week I was spewing because we booked a trip up the coast and I was hoping we drew Saturday night so we could I could be settled down in some pub somewhere on the Sunshine Coast. We sort of drove up there in 2 trips. We got to about I think we went to Coffs Harbour maybe, stayed the night and then drove the rest. So I was
Yep.
just speeding to get up to bloody Coffs Harbour and my youngest daughter uh gone to the toilet, don't know how to get Brit, and then I had to stop into this I think it's Karua where the great Eric Sims is from, did the quickest nappy change you've ever seen. It was like a Formula One driver changing the tyre out at the pits. And we got up there and got into this Chinese restaurant and I got the game on. And we just blew them off the park in the first 50 odd minutes to lead 40-0, Brenda. Where were you for that one?
Mate, I was actually at the ground at the old Allianz Stadium. I was down there with former Rabbitoh Adam McKeown and his family that night. And, geez, what a great memory that was for nearly every South fan, chap. So I think when that game blew out to 40-0, and from memory, it was Dylan Walker that scored the try that blew it out to 40-0. I think a lot of Rabbitoh supporters there that day were pretty confident that team, the 2014 team, was going to go on and, win that trophy. And a few weeks later, that's exactly what they did, chaps.
Yeah, they certainly did, mate. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it goes. Weddings, we had to be up there for a wedding. We winning that game, it gave us the week off, so we stayed up another week. I got to watch both semi-finals from the other teams and suck it all up. But I think the first thing that I remember about that game was Lottie Takiri's try over Georgie Tafua, who sort of mouthed off a bit during the week. And if you're going back and even looking at it to this day, that the athleticism from a 35-year-old man on the wing, you don't see that very often. He was a very, very special athlete, that Lottie Takiri. We're sort of lucky to get him in the end. It took him a while to warm up and get going, but he really set the tone in that semi-final week 1.
Definitely, mate. Dual international in rugby union and rugby league. And to have a guy like Lottie Takiri and Greg Inglis, like I grew up and watched them play, one for Melbourne and obviously Lottie for Brisbane, and then he went to Union. And to have both those guys, GI and Lottie Takiri, in that 2014 team, mate, in that back line, very, very special chaps. I mean, both absolute terrific players. And yeah, Lottie Takiri will be remembered forever by Rabbitoh supporters due to what he did in that back end of the 2014 season, mate, leading up to that premiership.
Yeah, he was a powerhouse. He was a cool, calm head. He played for the Wallabies on at places like Twickenham and all that sort of stuff over in Europe. Some of the biggest stages you could ever imagine. Won a grand final in 2001, and just to have him in the team, I think it calmed down the nerves of a lot of young guys like your Adam Reynolds and your Dylan Walkers and Alex Johnsons and the like. And Alex Johnson, even though he bombed a try early by not being able to put the ball down, he scored a double. And in particular, I think it was the last try. It was a typical left side shift from the Rabbitohs, and it was a GI face ball cutout, and Johnson just burnt down the sideline and capped off a beautiful game. Even Renault scored a double, I think, in that one, mate.
Yeah, Renault got a double from memory, and yeah, that pace down the sideline from Alex Johnston, a young 19-year-old South Sydney junior, mate. that got his chance in that 2014 season. Debuted obviously in Anzac Day against the Broncos. We spoke about that last week, but yeah, he really came into his own in that final series, Chaps, and obviously got the first try in the grand final too a few weeks later. It was a terrific season by Alex Johnston, and it's no surprise that he's gone on to be a 200 gamer for our mighty club, Chaps.
Yeah, I mean, the tone was set there by Sam Burgess, who was dominant up front with his brothers. That Manly side had coming off of probably 8 or 9 years of real success, been a lot of grand finals, and they were coming to the end of their run, and the Bunnies were on the up, and they were sort of I say they were on that downhill slope because they got beat the following week. It was like a bang bang out the back door, top four performance. Yeah, it was pretty exciting because the following week we got to play the Roosters, and at the time we'd never really played them in a big game, in a big moment, in a prelim like that. Since then we played them a couple of times since then in some semi-final series, but yeah, the excitement. I was super confident living in the area where I live. Some of your mates are Roosters, majority of them are South fans, but the banter during the week was just at fever pitch, like unbelievable. The messages going back and forth, and I was super confident. I backed South 13 plus. I had quite a big bet on it, and I was pretty confident. And it wasn't looking good when we were down 12 block, mate. They got off to a good start. Mitchell Pearce looked really on fire early, didn't he?
He looked great, mate. And rumour has it, mate, you were counting your money, and then the count blew your ticket. The great Anthony Minicello, the count.
On the bell, yeah, he got me on the bell. Anthony Mitchell. I think that was his final game in first grade too. He retired at the back end of that one. But now obviously Ben Teo come into the side. Do you remember who missed out in the 17 from the Manly game to the Roosters game?
Mate, Chaps, I'm normally pretty good at this, but I think the Mayor of Maroubra, mate, help me out, please.
I thought you would have known this, mate.
No, I've got to give you the glory here, Chaps. You're chasing a bit of glory, mate.
One of the forgotten Burgess brothers, mate. Luke Burgess. He played against Manly. And,
the great Lucky Bird, yep.
Yeah, Luke Burgess. He played in that Manly semi-final. That was his old club, Manly, as well, if you remember. And, yeah, unfortunately, he missed out. But I'll tell you what, that was the right decision because Ben Teo came on, gave away a penalty first up by flogging Maloney on the ground. And it sort of got Maloney off his game a little bit because he had a couple of knock-ons later on. We jammed in on him defensively. We were just driving in defence, which is defence wins premierships, mate. The shit-eyed attacking sides very rarely win the premiership. It's all about defence, and that's what we knuckled down to. And we got out to a fair dinkum lead there. But I think the key play, and a lot of people think about Sam Burgess's courage. They generally put up that clip of him running off the back fence against the Bulldogs in Good Friday, that Good Friday clash. But I reckon the one-on-one tackle of Sam Moa under the goalpost on the stroke of half-time, we could have went down 18-12 at the break. I think that was a key moment in not only that game, but in the season and in the tilt for the premiership.
Yeah, mate, he just chopped him down, mate. Absolute textbook tackle, just stopped him in his tracks. There was absolutely not one little bit of post-contact, not even half a metre by Sam Moa, and there couldn't have been because otherwise he would have got the ball on the chalk. And Sam Burgess, mate, I think over the years, Rabbitohs supporters just expected that from him to come up with the big play when it was needed. And as we spoke about, before the tackle on Jimmy Maloney, where Big Benny Teo bulldogged him into the turf, the Roosters actually had the momentum. And if Sam Moa had a cross there, Chaps, the Roosters would have went into the sheds, mate, with quite a lot of momentum. And who knows who would have won that game, mate. That was an absolutely crucial play by Big Sammy B to bring down Sam Moa. And I've got to say, we're not Rooster supporters here on this channel, but very underrated player, Sam Moa. And he was absolutely coming off the back fence, mate. It took some doing to bring him down.
Yeah, he's a dominant forward, and I got to know him a little bit this year, played a bit of football with him this year, touched footy on the sand, and I've actually brought up that tackle with him, and he said, I swear, I thought I was going to score, and I just got monstered by him. I had to double look and see who it was. I couldn't believe I was tackled on the line. He goes, I was pretty that would have been great to go into half time with our tails up. But he said, South just had a different look in their eye from that moment. We went up 12-0 and it sort of got out of hand for him in the second half. I think tries to Benny Teo, couple to Greg Inglis, and it was just we blew them right out. And again, we dropped off a little bit at the end there with a couple of tries of the Roosters. Might have been one to Aiden Guerra and possibly Anthony Minicello from memory at the back end, and that just give Madge another little bit of ammunition to get stuck into them and stick to the task for what was to come. A huge grand final week, mate.
Yeah, mate, it was just a great week. I think it was similar to Reinstatement Day or the images of the great Georgie Piggins standing on the steps of the town hall there 25 years ago. But I get a bit emotional talking about it. I remember probably 2 days in a row that week of the grand final, I caught the train down from the Central Coast to Redfern. I didn't go to work, had a couple of days off, and I just went down there because I couldn't sleep of a night time. I was up and I was just thinking about, what it was going to feel like if South won the grand final. Because for me, at the time, I was only 25, chaps, and, it wasn't really anything that I've thought about before the Rabbitohs making a grand final, because all through my life, I followed the underdogs, mate. The mighty South Sydney Rabbitohs that had some glory days in years gone by, but were well before my time. And I woke up after that victory against the Roosters and I realised that this next week was going to be something that was very close to my heart. The mighty South Sydney Football Club were going into a grand final, mate. And, I think about that week all the time. It was just brilliant. I went down to a barber shop in Redfern and I actually got a barber down there to cut a rabbit into me bald head, and over the other side he actually wrote South Sydney, and I walked around with that haircut all week. And got back to the coast that night and I actually had a white VL Commodore, and I gave the keys to a mate of mine that does a bit of spray paint and that, and he sanded the car all back and he painted it red and green, mate, with a big white pinstripe through the middle. And just great memories, mate. Great memories. One thing I think back to now is I sort of wish me 2 little girls were alive at that time, and they got to see it as well. But it's something that I'll be able to tell them about when they get older, mate. But what a terrific week that was, chaps.
Yeah, it was pretty unique. Just for myself and my brother who'd supported the club, never seen him in a GF, and my dad had been lucky enough to see him in 10 or 12 before that and gone to the game and soaked it up. But I know on my balcony, I was living at Maddo at the time, and we covered it in South flags and all that sort of stuff, and red and green tinsel everywhere and all that around the balcony. My neighbour 2 doors up is a man South fan. He covered the telegraph pole in red and green streamers from bottom to top with this giant ladder. We went down to the local chemist at South Maroubra there, Walsh's Chemist. A shout out to the Walsh brothers, big supporters of the Rabbits. They've been sponsoring them for many, many years. They organised a big community photo, and we all got down next to the surf club on the steps there. And my young bloke was lucky enough to hold the flag at the front. We're in the front page of the local rag down here, the Southern Courier, and we also went to the training session and all that type of stuff. And I remember meeting people at the training session. One bloke was a little pommy bloke with a little jockey sort of hat on and had a bit of a limp, and me and Dad were talking to him, and he'd come all the way over from Leeds. He'd been a South supporter his whole life, and he was coming to watch him for the first time.
Yeah, good. He
got a late ticket, flew over. He'd come to that's the sort of people you're bumping into in that week. It was pretty emotional at that training session, and you could tell they were a little bit nervous, and they dropped a bit of pill on that day, but just the roar of the crowd, the South Sydney, all that sort of stuff. And that was brilliant, mate. You couldn't have fit any more people in the lineup to get in. I don't think any other club, maybe the Melbourne clubs, they do stuff like that in grand final week, but I can't see any other NRL club having that amount of fan support in an open training session.
No, not at all, chaps. The South Sydney Rabbitohs, as we know, it's a different beast. And, we spoke about it on the phone earlier today. If we ever had 4 or 5 years of dominance, like the Penrith Panthers, mate, geez, the supporters would be just coming out of the woodwork. I mean, imagine the people we'd have at the Heffron Centre for training sessions and alike. As we're the biggest club in the country, I don't care what anyone says. You can wear a red and green South Sydney jersey anywhere, and someone will come up to you that's familiar with the club, familiar with South Sydney, the colours, the history of the club, getting booted out of the comp, coming back, winning that premiership in 14. You can be anywhere in Australia or probably anywhere in the world, and someone will know the story of South Sydney, chaps. And look, if we ever had a 4 or 5 years like Penrith, it'd just be absolutely incredible. I just hope I can live through that, and we have 4 or 5 years. Hopefully, with Bennett, the first 3 years he's there, we can do something like Penrith did, chaps. I think it'd just be iconic.
Yeah, well, you live in hope, don't you? That's that's what we do. We live in hope. We're supporters. We get behind them, win, lose, or draw. You're constantly picking teams with your mates. Oh, I reckon he should play, or that's just what you do. You live and breathe it. You live and breathe this club, and you can't wait to put your hard earned behind, whether it's a membership package or buy the latest jumpers or clothes, and that's what they do. Led by our famous Borough, that great supporters group. They live and breathe it, Brendo. And we might as well chat on. Have you seen Seven yet?
I haven't seen Seven yet.
We'll leave it for another time then. That's all right. There was a couple of good little subjects to trot off on there, mate. But we might look just about leave it there, mate. Those two semi-finals were very special, and I remember lining up to get my tickets because we bought tickets for the grand final. I didn't have great tickets; we're right at the back or whatever. And I was in the lineup to pick up the tickets, and my mate rang me. He worked for David Gingell. He's a Mad South fan, my mate. He had a 10% share in this business down at Bondi Beach, a surf shop, and Ginge rang him up and said, "Listen, mate, I've got the Channel 9 box. I'm only having Bulldog supporters and South supporters there. I don't want any famous people, no TV executives, no presenters, just going to be all the battlers." And he goes, "I know you're a Mad South fan. I've got 2 tickets for you." And my mate rang me and wanted to go with me. So my mate Herbie Mossman, shout out to you, Herb. And I was dead set on the halfway line for the first grand final we'd ever been in. Any beers or drinks you wanted. We had our own chef, cooking food and all that sort of stuff. Cost me nothing. The ticket would have cost $2.5 grand.
How good is that?
I sat next to the Telstra box was next to me, and there's only like a little arm rail, and It was Daly Cherry Evans' pregnant wife, and then Daly Cherry Evans on the other side. So I can tell you what, Daly Cherry Evans' unborn child, I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but they would have heard me screaming for South Sydney Rabbitohs during that game. Don't worry about that.
How good is that,
poor little kid. Yeah, it was a classic, mate. And then, we'll talk about that in the next couple of episodes. What happened after that, because episode 7's all about that week, that lead up, and some of the events that happened around that. And episode 8's going to be all about the grand final, Brendan. We might just leave it there. We've knocked out 18 minutes there. It's always a good chat, mate. I was down there training today, and Wayne Bennett was just laying the law down. He's got him. He hasn't quite shaped him up yet. He's got a bit more time with him. He's got a few more months to shape him up. But early signs, they're looking pretty much like a different group altogether. 12 months on.
Yeah, mate, I haven't been out of training yet, obviously from up on the Central Coast, but I've heard reports off yourself and good mate of mine, Peter Reid, and a few other people that get down there regularly that they're looking really good. And a standout that people are telling me is Jamie Humphries, the recruit from Manly, the halfback hooker, that's got a fair set of Warwick Farms on him, chaps, and looks really fit, mate.
Yeah, he's a bit of a beast. I haven't seen him do a lot of training yet. He's just been on the rehab thing on the side, but I think he was back on the field today, but only caught the end of it. Mate, he looks sharp. To me, the standout down there so far has been, of the new guys, is Lachlan Hubner. Hard-working middle forward / back rower. Not the biggest guy in the world. Probably a little bit bigger and thicker than Cam Murray, around that size, maybe a fraction bigger. Mate, I think he's going to be a revelation in the red and green jersey next year, mate. Cannot wait for it. We might leave it there, Brendo. That might be about it for another edition. Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. Up the mighty Rabbitohs.
Go the Bunnies. Good on you, chaps. Thanks again, brother.